Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rarachach Wadash. Peace and blessings to the elect, the listeners learn the Yakin Wakwatiyam. And double honors to the elder apostle, the great millstone, and the elder bishops, and much respect to the mighty Gabar Yom and the house and hedges. Bidding Yashar out to the marriage and to the Gabar making videos of edification to wake up the lost sheep. And salutations to the less scattered abroad that be unto the speckled bird. So just thinking about 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, I believe, the 15th verse, when it talks about the studying that shall self-approve unto Yahweh, okay? And just meditating on how some people will say or claim that the Apocrypha is not part of the Bible. Well, before the removal by the Protestant church, okay, because you gotta remember the Apocrypha means to be sent away. So the Protestant church removed the Apocrypha from the 16 King James 11, which is the complete Bible, which consists of the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. So that book was removed because it had hardcore prophecies, man. Evident prophecies that exposed who the wicked are. And also other prophecies that line up with the Old Testament and the New Testament, okay? And they also remove history, okay? So like the scripture says, man, 2 Timothy 2, study to show yourself approved. And many people, they do not have the true comprehension of how to study the Bible, man. This is why the scriptures tell us precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. The here a little, there a little means what? To go to certain books, man. Because all books match up. Prophecies that's written in the Old Testament match up with the prophecies that's written in the New Testament. Prophecies written in the New Testament match up with prophecies that's written in the Apocrypha. And as it says in 1 Thessalonians, to prove all things. Well, I'm going to prove all things by this one account spoken of in 2 Samuel, chapter 7, and 1 Kings, the 1st chapter. Now, this is going into the prophet Nathan, who was sent by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai unto King David. Now, we all understand that King David committed a transgression, right? 1 John 3 and 4. For sin is the transgression of the law, okay? And that transgression was adultery, right? He wanted Bathsheba, who was espoused to Eliam. And Eliam was a soldier in King David's army, right? And we all know that King David set it up to where Eliam was sent out to fight against warriors who were very powerful. And they overpowered him, okay? And he died, right? He died in the battle. So, going back into the prophet Nathan, the prophet Nathan was sent by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai unto King David, right? To bring a prophecy, a parable, and also to rebuke, okay? So again, that's in 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter, and also in 1 Kings, the 1st chapter. This is speaking of what? The Old Testament. Now, going back into what? Here a little, there a little, and 2 Timothy 2, study yourself approved. In the Apocrypha, in I believe Sirach, the 47th chapter, it speaks about how Nathan, the prophet, was sent unto King David. You see that? So the Apocrypha and the Old Testament match up, and there's your proof. That's just one example. Okay? That is just one example. So how can you say that the Apocrypha is not a part of the Bible when I just brought out one account and one example that proves that the prophecies and the accounts written in the Apocrypha also match up with the accounts and prophecies written in the New Testament? That's why the scriptures talk about in Sirach, the 3rd chapter. It says, without eyes thou shalt want light. Therefore, do not profess the knowledge that thou hast not. That means if you don't know what you're talking about, if you haven't opened up your eyes to get the light, which is the wisdom of understanding, by studying 2 Timothy 2 and 15, then keep your mouth shut. You have not studied. You have not searched the scriptures. Also, the Lord has not even opened up your eyes and your ears, man, and your spirit to seek out those things, man. The scripture says that it is glory of Yahweh to hide a thing, but it's an honor of kings to search out a matter, roughly paraphrasing. So a king, a man of a righteous rulership mentality, would search out the dark sentences, parables, the prophecies. Also what? The precepts. Like King David said, through thy precepts I get understanding, and I hate every false way. So King David sought out what the Lord hid. You see that? So how can you say that the Apocrypha is not part of the Bible, or does not match up with the Bible? Pre-Protestant, the Protestant church, it was part of the Bible. The 16 King James 11, and King James was a so-called black man, an Israelite. Okay, he was not an Edomite, because if he was an Edomite, he would not allow prophecies of the scriptures that speaks of the destruction of the Edomites to be to go forth, to go out, so people to read. Also, he's not a homosexual, because if he was, he wouldn't allow the judgment against homosexuals to be read or to be brought out. I believe Romans, the 1st chapter, calls it vile affection. Okay? So at the end of the day, man, if you do not have the knowledge, wisdom, or understanding of the scriptures, you're giving the sacrifices of fools if you claim to say something, thinking that you know something, and it's wrong. 1 Thessalonians says you have to prove all things, man. In the book of 1 Peter, it says to speak as the oracles of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man. So if you say something, you have to prove it with the scriptures, man. So yeah, so you know, like I said, just something to spare power Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, something I've been thinking about. And the Lord reminded me of how some people will say that. You know? So at the end of the day, continue to study. Okay? Excuse me. Continue to study and walk in the wisdom and understanding of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, you know? To defend the gospel. Because we are in defense of the gospel. Because we are in those last days where there's going to be false prophets and false teachers coming in the name of the Son of Yahweh, okay? So with that, I pray this was edifying. I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hasham Barakak B'Dash, Shalom.